The Forgotten Melody. The first drops of rain caught Julian by surprise. He had been so absorbed in pruning the community garden's rose bushes that he hadn't noticed the darkening sky above Willowbrook's eastern district. As other volunteers hurriedly packed their tools, Julian lingered, fascinated by how the garden transformed. In the rain, how each plant seemed to dance with renewed vigor under the shower. "You must really love plants to stay out in this weather," came a voice from behind. Julian turned to find a woman huddled under the small gazebo, sketchbook clutched protectively against her chest, a pencil tucked behind her ear. Her curly auburn hair was already dampening at the edges, and her green sweater had darker patches where the rain had touched it. "I'm a music teacher by profession," Julian explained with a smile, "but a gardener by heart. Something about the rhythm of rain makes everything grow better. Plants and melodies alike." The woman nodded appreciatively. "I'm Olivia. I come here to sketch the seasonal changes for my botanical illustrations." Julian introduced himself, noticing how her eyes caught the silver-gray light of the storm. They talked as the rain intensified, sheltering in the gazebo while thunder occasionally punctuated their conversation. Olivia showed him her intricate drawings, detailed renderings of the garden's flora with scientific precision yet artistic flair. When the rain finally subsided to a drizzle, Olivia gathered her supplies. "I should head home before the next wave hits." Julian watched her leave, feeling an unexpected lightness in his chest. It wasn't until he began collecting his own gardening tools that he noticed the small wooden box tucked under the gazebo bench. Carved with delicate wildflower patterns, it looked both valuable and personal. Opening it hesitantly, he discovered a miniature music box mechanism inside, though it seemed jammed. Julian carefully placed it in his bag. He would return it to Lost and Found, but something told him it might belong to Olivia. A quick check of the community garden registry confirmed his suspicion. Olivia Bennett was the only regular visitor who matched her description. That evening, in his modest apartment filled with plants and vintage records, Julian examined the music box more carefully. As a repair enthusiast who often fixed old instruments for his students, he couldn't resist the urge to try fixing the mechanism. His fingers worked delicately, adjusting the tiny gears until, with a satisfying click, the music began to play, a hauntingly beautiful melody he recognized as Debussy's Clair de Lune. The next morning, Julian called the community center and left a message about the found item. 2 days passed without response. On the third day, when rain again threatened the sky, Julian returned to the garden with the music box. Perhaps Olivia would return on a similar day. His intuition proved correct. As he tended to a patch of lavender, he spotted her by the pond, sketching water lilies with intense concentration. The sight made him pause. There was something poetic about her stillness amid the garden's constant movement. "I believe this belongs to you," Julian said, approaching with the box extended. Olivia looked up, momentarily confused, then her expression transformed to astonishment. "My grandmother's music box. I thought it was lost forever." Her fingers traced the carved flowers. "It stopped working years ago." "It works now," Julian said softly. "May I?" He opened the lid, and the delicate notes of Debussy filled the small space between them. Olivia's eyes widened with wonder, then glistened with emotion. "This was my grandmother's favorite piece," she whispered. "How did you—" "I fix instruments sometimes," Julian explained, suddenly feeling shy under her gaze. The mechanism just needed a gentle touch. A raindrop fell, then another. Around them, the garden began to empty of visitors, but neither moved. The music box played its last notes as the rain intensified, and Julian impulsively offered his jacket as shelter. "Perhaps we could continue this conversation somewhere drier," he suggested. "There's a cafe just outside the garden that makes excellent chai tea." Olivia smiled, carefully tucking the music box into her bag. "I'd like that. Besides, I owe you a proper thank you for saving something irreplaceable to me." As they walked through the garden, the rain creating a shimmering curtain around them, Julian felt something shift, like the first notes of a composition he couldn't yet fully hear, but somehow knew would become significant. Little did he know that this rainy encounter would be just the beginning of a melody that would transform both their lives in ways neither could imagine. Crescendo of coincidences, the morning light filtered through the stained glass windows of St. Catherine's Community Music Center, casting colorful patterns across Julian's classroom. His students had just filed out after their ensemble practice, leaving behind the lingering echoes of Mozart's Eine kleine Nachtmusik. Julian gathered his sheet music, his thoughts drifting to Olivia and their rain-soaked conversation from 3 weeks ago. Their cafe chat had stretched into evening, revealing unexpected parallels in their lives. Both had abandoned more lucrative careers to pursue artistic passions. Both had lost parents young, both found solace in creating beauty from emptiness. They'd exchanged numbers with promises to meet again, but between his teaching schedule and her approaching illustration deadline for a botanical encyclopedia, timing had proven difficult. "Julian, I thought that was you." The voice pulled him from his reverie. Standing in the doorway, portfolio case slung over her shoulder, was Olivia. Her auburn curls were gathered in a loose bun, a few rebellious strands framing her face. "Olivia! What brings you here?" he asked, unable to hide his surprise and delight. She gestured down the hallway. "I'm illustrating sheet music covers for the center's anniversary collection. Today was my meeting with the director." A smile played at the corners of her mouth. "I heard your class playing as I was leaving. You're quite the inspiring teacher." Julian felt warmth creep up his neck. "Just passionate about helping others find their rhythm." He paused, gathering courage. "Are you free for lunch? There's a small Vietnamese place around the corner." Over steaming bowls of pho, they fell back into conversation as if weeks hadn't passed. Olivia described her current project illustrating medicinal plants, while Julian shared stories of his most challenging students. When rain began tapping against the restaurant windows, they exchanged knowing smiles. "It seems to follow us," Olivia said. "Maybe it's trying to tell us something," Julian replied, surprising himself with his boldness. In the weeks that followed, coincidences multiplied. Julian discovered Olivia volunteering at the Natural History Museum, where he took his students for a special lecture. He bumped into her at the farmer's market, where they both reached for the same bunch of lavender. She found him browsing botanical books at the very bookshop where she was scheduled to sign copies of her recently published illustration collection. "At this point, I'm beginning to wonder if you're following me," Olivia teased during their fourth accidental meeting, this time at a community orchestra performance where Julian had come to support a former student. "Or perhaps the universe is conspiring," he countered, emboldened by the way her eyes lingered on his. The universe's conspiracy reached its crescendo on a stormy Friday evening at the Willowbrook Art Museum. Julian had come to see a special exhibition on the relationship between music and visual arts throughout history. Olivia was there researching artistic representations of plants for her next project. As they toured the exhibition separately, a powerful lightning strike hit nearby. The museum plunged into darkness, emergency lights casting an ethereal glow across marble halls. An announcement informed visitors they would need to remain inside until the electrical system could be safely restored. "We meet again," came Julian's voice as he approached. Olivia in the dimly lit Renaissance gallery, starting to think rain is our matchmaker. For 3 hours, they wandered through the semi-dark museum, viewing masterpieces in a literally different light. With fewer distractions and most visitors gathered in the main hall, they had entire galleries to themselves. Julian explained how certain musical compositions corresponded to painting techniques from the same era, while Olivia pointed out symbolic uses of plants and flowers in portraits they passed. "Listen," Julian whispered in the Baroque gallery, pulling out his phone. He played a Bach cello suite, positioning them before a landscape painting from the same period. "Feel how the music and brushstrokes share the same mathematical precision, yet contain such emotion." Olivia closed her eyes, swaying slightly to the music. When she opened them, Julian was watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "I think I understand," she said softly. When the lights finally flickered back to life, something had shifted between them. Outside, the storm had cleared, leaving the night air fresh and cool. Julian walked Olivia to her apartment building, their conversation flowing effortlessly. At her doorstep, Olivia hesitated. "Would you like to come up for tea? I have some sketches from the garden I'd like your opinion on." Julian's apartment might have been filled with plants, but Olivia's was a veritable indoor forest. Potted herbs lined her kitchen windowsill, hanging plants cascaded from macrame holders, and her balcony hosted a miniature vegetable garden. Her living room doubled as a studio, with an easel by the window and botanical illustrations in various stages of completion pinned to corkboards. "It's perfect," Julian said, taking it all in. "It suits you." Olivia prepared jasmine tea while Julian examined her sketches. One in particular caught his eye, a detailed rendering of the community garden gazebo where they'd first met. Complete with rain-soaked roses and, he noticed with a smile, two indistinct figures sheltering within. "This one tells a story," he observed, pointing to it when she returned with steaming mugs. "Some moments deserve to be preserved," she replied. Her voice soft but unwavering. They talked until midnight, the conversation flowing from art to childhood memories to dreams still unfulfilled. When Julian finally prepared to leave, Olivia impulsively reached for her grandmother's music box on the shelf. "I'd like you to borrow this," she said. "Maybe it will inspire your compositions." Julian carefully accepted it, understanding the significance of the gesture. "I'll treasure it until it returns home." Standing in her doorway, the weight of unspoken words hung between them. Julian leaned forward slowly, giving her time to step away, but instead, Olivia met him halfway. Their first kiss was gentle, questioning, then deepened with the certainty of something long awaited finally arriving. Outside, a soft rain began to fall again, its gentle rhythm a backdrop to the beginning of their story's next movement. Harmonies and hesitations. Summer unfurled across Willowbrook like a leisurely symphony, each day bringing new variations on familiar themes. For Julian and Olivia, the season marked the blossoming of their relationship, each discovering the intricate melodies that made up the other's life. Mornings found them in the community garden, Julian tending to plants while Olivia sketched. Afternoons were filled with Julian's teaching and Olivia's illustration work. Evenings often brought them together again, cooking in one of their apartments, attending concerts, or simply walking through the city as twilight painted the sky in watercolor hues. "I've never felt so understood by someone," Julian confessed one evening as they sat on his balcony, a bottle of wine between them. Olivia's head rested on his shoulder, her sketchbook open on her lap with half-finished drawings of the city skyline. "It's like finding a counter-melody to your own song," she replied, her artist's fingers intertwined with his musician's ones. Yet beneath the harmonious surface, discordant notes occasionally emerged. Julian's structured teaching schedule clashed with Olivia's freelancer flexibility. His preference for careful planning contradicted her spontaneous nature. His social circle of fellow musicians and educators rarely overlapped with her solitary artist friends. "Come with me this weekend," Olivia suggested one Wednesday in late July. "My friend Renata offered her cabin near Lake Meridian. Just 2 days away from everything." Julian hesitated. "I have student recital preparations, which you've already meticulously organized," she countered gently. "The world won't collapse if Julian Mercer takes one weekend off." The cabin retreat revealed new dimensions to their relationship. Away from the city's rhythms, surrounded by nature's symphony, they hiked forest trails, swam in the crystal-clear lake, and spent hours simply being. Under star-filled skies, Julian played his violin on the dock while Olivia sketched by lantern light. On their second evening, as they prepared dinner together in the rustic kitchen, the conversation turned to families and pasts. "My parents had my life planned out," Julian said, chopping herbs with the precision of someone accustomed to following directions exactly. "Business school, then joining my father's firm. When I chose music instead, they called it a phase. 3 years later, they still introduce me as their son who's finding himself." Olivia nodded, understanding reflected in her eyes. "My mother wanted me to pursue practical art, graphic design, or advertising. Something with stability." She stirred the pasta sauce contemplatively. "After she died, I found a box of her old sketches hidden in the attic. Detailed botanical drawings just like mine. She'd abandoned her passion for practicality, then never found time to return to it. Julian set down his knife. That's why you're so determined to live without compromise. And why you seek approval through perfection, she added gently. The observation struck too close to a truth Julian had never articulated. That's not fair, he said, his tone sharper than intended. Isn't it? Olivia challenged. You rescheduled our dates twice because students needed extra help. You apologize when your apartment isn't spotless. You practice pieces until your fingers bleed. I've seen the bandages, Julian. That's dedication, not seeking approval, he defended. It can be both. Olivia touched his arm. I'm not criticizing. I'm seeing you. The conversation spiraled, bringing to surface deeper insecurities. Julian accused Olivia of impulsivity without consideration for consequences. She countered that his need for control stemmed from fear of the unpredictable. Words became weapons, then shields, until they retreated to opposite ends of the cabin. Rain began to fall, their familiar companion pattering against the roof in a gentle rhythm that gradually calmed heated emotions. Hours later, Julian found Olivia on the screened porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching lightning illuminate the distant mountains. I'm sorry, he said, sitting beside her. You were right about me. She turned, her expression softening. And you were right about me. I sometimes leap without looking. It's what makes you extraordinary, Julian admitted. You see beauty in risks I'd calculate away. And your thoughtfulness creates foundations that make my leaps possible, she replied. They talked through the night, dissecting past relationships, childhood wounds, professional disappointments, all the experiences that had shaped their approaches to love. Dawn found them exhausted but cleansed, tangled together on the porch swing as pink light spilled across the lake. I think I'm falling in love with you, Julian whispered against her hair, finally brave enough to name the melody that had been building inside him. Olivia looked up, her eyes reflecting the sunrise. I think I already have. They returned to Willowbrook changed, their relationship deeper for having weathered its first storm. Julian began setting boundaries with his teaching commitments, while Olivia started keeping a schedule for her freelance work. They were learning to compose together, adjusting their individual melodies to create something harmonious yet true to each. As summer waned into autumn, they established rituals, Sunday mornings in the garden, Wednesday night concerts, impromptu picnics whenever rain threatened. Julian started a composition inspired by Olivia's illustrations, while she began a series of paintings based on musical notation. Neither could have predicted that their carefully constructed harmony was about to face its greatest challenge, one that would force them to question everything they thought they knew about love, ambition, and sacrifice.